20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
Do you remember when you found out about us going back to the moon in 2024?
Yeah, I remember hearing about. I think it was on some space sites.
Well, I never really knew about the date, but it's been a while that I've heard that they were constantly talking about it and looking for the funds, things in that order. But I never really knew when the date was going.
Whenever Mike Pence made that speech, what was it, like 2 years ago at this point?
How do we get more Elon Musk in the world?
I think we need to encourage people to think outside the box, encourage to question everything. If you have a strange idea, put it out there and see if people are willing to invest it, and then go for it.
You know, who's going to be the waste management services of the space to make sure that we're not littering space to make it more dangerous for our astronauts? And, you know, in the future, what impact does that have on the environment?
Trying to think of some others. I mean, technology transfer is useful. There are things that were invented in the pursuit of the Apollo program that were useful on Earth. I think some medical technologies for monitoring astronauts ended up being important, inexpensive ways to monitor things like blood pressure, heart monitors, stuff like that.
When they're putting their lives on the line to do this very innovative adventure, we want to make sure that they're within our range at least the first few times that we try it, that they are safe, and if anything were to happen, God forbid, they could come back in a reasonable amount of time. Whereas Mars being so many miles away, that is a lot more dangerous of a path to go. And so I think our astronaut safety should definitely be taken into account, and hence why we should go to the moon before we go to Mars.
Well, I think when we landed on the moon, that gave it a lot of credibility. People realized that space is a real place. Of course, there's been a lot of science fiction people writing about space, and we do derive a tremendous amount of benefits from some of the space activities. And of course, one of the big things was geosynchronous orbit that was invented by Arthur C. Clarke.
Well, our whole system and balance has been based on inventions and moving forward. You can't go forward if you're constantly looking in the rearview mirror. So you can't leave things stagnant. You have to constantly be open to change. Now, of course, you have a very large amount of people that don't like change. They hate change, and they're going to be 100% against it. But we really need to find a way to promote change, and change is through exploration.
Yeah, let's get there. Let's put boots on the ground, and let's keep boots on the ground and learn how, because that's something we have to do for Mars. I mean, if you land on Mars, you're stuck there for 18 months or so before you can come back. We don't know how to live on another planetary body. You know, we've done it on the moon for 3 days. 3 days versus 18 months. It's a very different story.
I'm not surprised, because I don't think they follow space stuff, especially on social media. But I think maybe if people do follow space more, they will probably get more into space, especially the benefits of space travel.
Unfortunately, because our seriousness about our climate and the diversity of the wildlife and fish and everything else, I mean, we're losing species every day. You know, hundreds of species are becoming extinct, and if we want to do a 500-year space plan, we've got to make sure that our home of Earth is still viable.
Basically, the weather of the sun which includes ejecting charged particles and like in solar flares or coronal mass ejections, how those things can be predicted, how they can be detected, because these things can completely, if you had a big enough solar storm, it could wipe out all of the electronics on Earth effectively.
Going to the moon in 2024 is a goal, right? But that's just one stone on this whole road that we're trying to get to. We're eventually colonizing Mars and then venturing past the solar system. I think that long-term goals should be kept in mind, because ultimately that's what's going to get us to expand as a species and as a civilization.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing I've never understood is why we don't have a space station with spin. I guess people say you get dizzy, but I don't know. It seems to me, if I guess I keep going back to the O'Neill colonies concepts, and if you make it big enough, you're not going to get dizzy from the spin, and you're able to produce a gravity then, possibly not a full Earth gravity, but some gravity. And of course, there's a lot of advantages of having lower gravity too, is that puts less stress on your body. And
I believe in emergency procedures, and that's why I suggested having an emergency space shuttle on the moon that might be ready to just take off at any time. And whether it's operated by us or Russia or different astronauts, somebody would always be up there who'd be able to operate that space shuttle. And
that's something that the early space program really had going for it. I mean, you had the first satellite, you had the first dog, you had the first human in space, you had these rockets that were evolving rapidly, and you were seeing the tests happen in real time. You're seeing them go up and explode. You were seeing them go up and be successful, and then larger rockets and larger rockets. And then it stalled, after the Saturn V. I think you brought up a good point that if people saw that progress being done.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good luck. Bye.